I'm Sara Hintz. We have had the opportunity to go to Uganda to serve. I've been 3 different times at orphanages, and particularly at one, a special needs orphanage called the GEM Foundation. Yeah, and we just go because an amazing opportunity, life-changing, and a blessing to just help and serve there. So.
And my name's Louis Hintz, and I've been to Uganda 4 times. And the reason I have gone over the years is to just serve others, and then once you start serving and you make relationships with those kids, it's hard to leave them, so you just keep going back and to continue to make those relationships with the kids. So we worked with a special needs orphanage called the GEM Foundation, which is located in Kampala, Uganda, which is the capital of Uganda. It's a GEM Foundation, so the founder calls her special needs kids the gems of Uganda because they're the ones who've been forgotten and they're precious. So they're the precious gems of Uganda.
While we were there, we probably spent 2 weeks with them at their orphanage. So they have kids ranging, I would say a lot of very severely special needs kids, a lot with feeding tubes, burn victims, CP, a lot of autism, generally really severe. Sometimes many not walking or anything like that. So we just cared for the kids, fed them. We actually went on a big zoo outing, their first big field trip. So we all took them to the zoo. That was really, really fun. But just kind of provided their daily care and helped out the nannies that care for them. We had on a previous trip went to Ikisa, which is the only other special needs orphanage that we know of, but the GEM Foundation is the only one in that area for sure in Kampala. And actually when she opened, so the founder of the GEM Foundation she's probably 22 now, and when she moved there she was 19. So she just felt a passion to go help in that way. Received all of these kids, actually a lot of them, from this big organization called Watoto. So other places just aren't really equipped to care for them, but she is just specifically special needs. So only one other that I know of special needs orphanage in Uganda. Maybe that's changed in the last couple of years. He was wearing like a size 4 clothes. So thin. A 12-year-old wearing size 4. I mean, had open wounds, and like he was just stuck in a fetal position because he had sat on a soiled mattress in the corner of a room like for who knows how long. So now after we see pictures of him and things, and he's just like, he can sit up in a wheelchair, like his transformation is phenomenal. His face is round and full, and he's healthy. Still has severe disabilities. And I think the other thing that I noticed too, and I didn't realize this ahead of time, kids when they're starved or malnourished, like, their brains can't develop. So like some of these kids may have developed normally if they had been cared for and fed. I mean, some of them for sure were probably born with special needs, but some probably weren't, and just now are because they have not had enough food or anything like that.
So in Uganda, like witchcraft, witch doctors are very common, and that's like something that people definitely believe in. And so what will usually happen is someone will sacrifice the child, but they won't sacrifice the child as in like kill them. They will just give them to the witch doctor, and the witch doctor will beat them or starve them or
mutilate them
and things like that. And so that often happens with special needs kids. So if there are kids to pick from, they usually will pick the special needs kids because, again, they're the ones who aren't cared for, the ones who really aren't loved. Because of that association with the witch doctors, people both like accept witch doctors and also fear them. So it's a really interesting dynamic that goes on. And so because of that, they believe that they're cursed because the witch doctors are the ones who will use those kids to perform rituals and other dangerous and scary things.
One little boy that stuck out to me just because, I don't know, I just fell in love with him, was this little boy named Joshua, who was probably about a year the last time we saw him. And he was severely burned. I'd say 90% of his body, like he didn't have hands anymore, and just scarred all over. So he was really, just being cared for by the GEM Foundation. Hopeful to get him, he had already had a couple surgeries, but hopefully get him a lot more surgeries to be able to just better be able to function as he grows. But we've seen videos of him walking and just able to do a lot with his arms, even though he doesn't have hands to work with. But just I'd say that was probably the hardest to see, just because he was but had such a hearty laugh and like just so precious, you couldn't help but fall in love with him. So I think the saddest ones are the kids that come in so malnourished. Like when you see them like that, I honestly thought, how are these kids gonna even survive? And Emma, the founder of GEM Foundation, has had 6 of her special needs kids pass away. I guess that's one thing too. Just the medical care. I just read today that she said she took one of her new gems to the hospital because she was sick, and the doctors, I guess, are on strike. So she got there and they said, sorry, come back another day, nobody's here. But she literally has run to clinics with, dying kids in her arms. But, they don't have medical things in place that we do here.
It's like seeing them laugh and smile. Like, there's this one little boy, his name is Nehemiah, and he has Down syndrome. And so one day we decided, it was like the day before, we were going to do like a Christmas party with them. So we had brought a bunch of gifts that were donated here in the States over to Uganda, and we were going to do a Christmas party. And so to get them all ready for their Christmas party, we gave everyone a haircut. And so in the middle of his haircut, like we did the first buzz right down the middle of his head, and the power went out. And so for the rest of the day, he had just one big stripe down the middle of his head that was shaved. But he was just so happy to have a haircut, and he was just smiling and like running around. We were playing soccer, and just like to see just how much joy he had, even though he was abandoned and wasn't cared for, and like just to see the hope that he now has in this place where he can get a haircut, even if it's just one buzz down the middle. He was just so happy to have that. And so it was just cool to see how much joy that this orphanage has like given these kids, and just how much hope that it has given them. So
one of the coolest things I thought too about the GEM Foundation, and just what made it so unique, was you would go, I mean, we probably were at 13 different orphanages, I think, over the years. And even in orphanages that cared for kids without any special needs, the care wasn't, I would say, maybe not as loving or as nurturing as we would see here, for sure. At the GEM Foundation, it is like the place is clean. Those nannies love those kids. One nanny is assigned to like 2 or 3 kids individually, and she cares for them. And they are just like, I've never seen people provide such good care. So those kids thrive, and they really, I mean, I learned so much just about how capable they are and how much they really are taking in, even though it may not appear as much to us, but I hadn't had that much experience with special needs kids prior to going. She works, so her parents run an organization called International Voice of the Orphan. So I know they receive some funding, it's all donations though. And the kids are also, like, if you go on their website, you can sponsor a child, and then that goes towards their care for the month. But I want to say she said it costs like $700 probably to care for each kid, because they have a lot of medical, I mean, she has nurses on staff 24/7. There's a lot of people there working and caring for the kids. But she really, I've never seen a more faith-filled person. She is just like, God's going to provide for it. And so the founders of the group called International Voice of the Orphan, I randomly was following the mom's blog. And so they go like 4 times a year probably. They used to go. And they would take teams of people. Because their daughter Emma had said when she was 7, like they have her on video at her birthday party saying, I want to serve orphans in Uganda. And they were kind of like, yeah, whatever. And she kept like putting brochures on their desks and stuff. And she finally at like 13 was like, I'm going. Either you're going to come with me or I'm going to go. You know, so then they started taking trips. So we just went on one of their trips. And I want to say 2nd year, she went and moved there when she was 19. Like, wow. She moved the same week we all went over for a trip. And then it was like, once she had an orphanage, we knew her. So we were like, let's just go there, you know, and help her versus going to all these other orphanages too. Because once you're there and you're like, I mean, you love just being there, but then it's like, I mean, her passion is just like contagious. You can't help but want to, you know, be a part of what she's doing and help her because she needs help.
Exactly.
You know, it gives them a break, and it's just encouraging for them to have people there too.
And we went to this really cool restaurant that's owned by some missionaries in Uganda. And so we went to their restaurant, and outside they have this man who has polio, and he hand paints cards of like Ugandan, like just like scenery and like villages and things like that. And they're like greeting cards, and they allow him to like sit outside of the restaurant and sell these like beautiful, beautiful cards. And so I think he was the only special needs adult that I saw. When we were at Akisa, a couple of years previously, they had adults that had special needs at their orphanage still, that they were caring for. Well, so on her property right now, she has like a little schoolroom in the back, and she wants her kids to get the education, especially some of her high-functioning kids. She wants to make sure that they can get the education if they want to learn and stuff. And so she's hired a teacher that works with special needs kids, and she's hired her to come in. I don't know how many days a week, but yeah, they use the schoolroom and they teach whatever kids can learn, and so they'll teach them at a slower pace and make sure that they can get that education. Kind of just like told myself, like, you're here for 2 weeks, give it all you got, just to like love them unconditionally and to love them without like any barriers, just like to give my all to these kids, because they are so precious and they're so awesome once you meet them, and once you like just sitting with them. They can't talk, not all of them can talk, and so just sitting with them and being that hand for them to hold or that face to look at is just really cool. So, and they like give you energy. It sounds weird, but like while you're there, like you would think you get tired like day in and day out, but like just being with those kids, you feel so like rejuvenated every night.
I would say, I don't know, I didn't really think about I don't think we thought about taking care of ourselves really. I don't mean that in any weird way. It's like you're just, you're only there for a few weeks. And I think constantly you're being shown like how good we have it and how hard it is for them and just people there in a third world country in general. So you sort of just feel so blessed the whole time because you're going home to your house and your warm bed and you know what I mean? So you can do, I always felt like I can do anything for a few weeks, you just throw yourself into it and I knew how much I would miss it when I got back, so I didn't want to waste any time.
I'd love to go back. It's just a matter of money and like just time and stuff like that. But I definitely would love to go back, and especially now working for like FMSC, I would love to go back and not only work at the GEM Foundation, but also see like part of my job that I do and stuff, see over there. So I think I'll definitely be back, but it's just a matter of when I can get off of school and work and things like that.
I would love to go back. I took Louis and his younger brother when they were maybe 14 and up we went. So now my daughter's 15, so I would love to take her back for sure. I think we knew what we were gonna encounter. Like if you didn't know going into a third world country what you were gonna face,
yeah,
I think it would be, it is devastating. And I've had so many people say, oh, I could never do that. It would just be too sad. I couldn't go. And I'm like, it is too sad. It is. Every bit of it's sad and heartbreaking, and I'm a very emotional person, so I'm always like, you could go, really. If I could go, you could go, trust me. But I just think, I think the experience in general is so good for anybody because it shows us, like, we value what we have. And it just makes us think outside of our own realm. You can't see that and see kids starving or street kids without parents or, and not have that touch your heart. And I, had a hard time settling back into a normal life. I remember coming back and telling my husband, no, we should move there. I really felt like it, and he was like, slow down. We had just adopted a 6-week-old baby, and he was like, that wouldn't be healthy to take a little baby over there. It is hard to talk about and get back acclimated into life here because everything seems so trivial. You're like, really? You're worried about what clothes you're wearing? These people are starving to death, truthfully, It's good. It just, it changes you, and then you kind of learn to assimilate it into who you are here, which is good. So
at first it definitely was hard. I would tear up at every time I thought about the whole, just my experience from going to Uganda and working with the special needs kids and stuff. But after you tell the story more and more, you kind of become like a voice for them in a way because they are voiceless, some of them. And sharing their story is so important, and sharing just the way they live and things like that is just so important to make sure that they are cared for and that they are loved. So I would say at first it definitely was hard to talk about, but as the years have gone by, I've kind of realized that we are their voice in a way, and so it's been cool to kind of be that voice and share their story. Before going to Uganda, I hadn't really had any interaction with special needs kids before, but ever since that experience, with my job now, I get to work at events around the nation and stuff, and a lot of the times special needs kids are brought to these events because we have jobs that these kids can do that are super easy but are so impactful. So it's been really cool to, I don't know, ever since going to Uganda, I've had now a passion for special needs kids, so I purposely will seek out those kids and go make sure that they feel welcomed and that they're enjoying themselves and having a good time at these events and making sure that they feel special and thanking them just for coming out and doing stuff for us.
To realize the nannies or Emma would be like, oh no, they're doing such and such, and that means they're hearing you or they're, so I realized it is so important and how overlooked. I felt guilty, even just here at church. We have a little boy that I always thought I would go up and talk to his mom, and he's right there in the wheelchair, but why did I never say, hey, and really engage him, even if he wasn't engaging back? So now I try to make a point of doing that because I'm I'm sure it feels totally how rude. I'm sitting here invisible, and they're not invisible.